What is up, guys? It is Simba here, and welcome back to the channel for another league racing video on F1 24, and it is another social race on the channel, this time around the new laser scan circuit around Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. And as you can see, we are in the rain for this qualifying session, but I'll get to that in a second, because before we get into things, let's make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 300 subscribers, and the controller settings video did pretty well, so stay tuned for more content. League racing is sort of on its way. There's still a few pre-season races to get through before we properly kick things off, so hope you guys stay tuned for that. And I will say that this race and the last race in Jeddah were all done before the new patch came out, so bear that in mind. I haven't done any racing with the new patch yet, and I'll give my thoughts on that in the next video. But for now, let's get into qualifying here at the Belgian Grand Prix. As you can see, we did do a lap that put us in 5th place, and we've been dropped down to 16th, but we found over a second over the course of the next lap. We did a cooldown lap and then went again, and as you can see, we have gone straight up into the top 4 with a 53.2, so pretty decent stuff. I wasn't expecting to do well at all because I didn't practice much. I only realised on the day of the race that I was racing with a bunch of tier 1 drivers in WOR and a few tier 2 drivers as well, so I wasn't expecting to be on the pace at all. But as you can see, we're getting ready for the final lap of the session, and we've been dropped down to P9 as the conditions continue to get better and better. People are getting better at these conditions. We're all learning as we go here, as this is the first wet running that we've done on this game, and let's see if you can find another big improvement. Down towards La Source at turn 1, drifting a little bit, going into the corner. We lose the rear end a little bit on the exit, but regardless, we have found half a tenth using the overtake button, as you can do that in qualifying as we make our way up Eau Rouge and Radion, staying in 7th gear and making sure we don't invalidate through Radion, because they've resurfaced it now, so it's really easy to cut through the last part if you're not careful. Nearly a tenth up as we go into my worst section of the track, Lacombe, down to 4th, trying to carry as much minimum speed as you can as you swing through the left and then the right, and on the traction again we have gained over half a second. This is looking good, but everyone else is going to be improving around us, so we need to make sure we keep gaining as much time as we can through this middle sector, because it's such a long lap. It's so easy to find spots to gain time. Now currently 8 tenths up, going into Pouon, downshift into 6th gear, but unfortunately we lose the rear. We go a bit too wide, and that is the lap in the bin, and we're going to see what it could have been, because we're going to try and finish the lap. We've gone over a second up again, but we go wide through Stavelot 2 and we drift a bit, which isn't ideal, and we drop a good 3 tenths in the process as we go through the bus stop for the final time to close out the lap. We're still P9 for now, as we're down to P10 as Matteo does a 51.6.
I don't know where that one put me.
We do a 52.3, a second faster, and unfortunately we get dropped down to P14. And if we just stayed on the track, and you know, we lost 3 tenths as well going into Stavelot 1 and 2, we probably would have been in the top 5 in this one. I'm not gonna lie, I fancied our chances to get into the top 5. So P14, considering that we were expecting to be last, isn't bad, but if you take the lap we've just done, and if it was valid, we would have definitely been within a chance of a top 10 for sure. But now we go into the race. It is full wet conditions, and I did toy around with the tyre pressures, but if you've seen a clip from Jan Upmere, it shows that the higher pressures you go, the better it is. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Trying to learn with the setup as well, and we're going to get ready for 5 red lights here at the Belgian Grand Prix. From 14th on the grid, can we get anywhere into the top 10? We're going to find out as the lights go out, and we are underway for our first wet race on F1 24, and the getaway was pretty good, but we get stopped in our tracks by the Kick Sauber of MVR Ballas. Going into the first corner, we lock wheels with the Mercedes of FVR Noah, I think, as we're all scrambling through, everyone getting through the first corner cleanly, and now through a Rouge. I think there might be, you know, a bit of side-by-side action going on. As you can see, then we get a warning. Ballas cuts the corner and into the Keppel straight. My reaction speaks for itself as I almost see two cars careering straight into the wall, and meanwhile, Zorzo flying down the Kemmel Straight has passed May and Balaz going into Lacombe, and he's gained 2 places, maybe even more than that by the time we get to the middle sector. But we're still 14th for the time being, as again we're going to try and have a look round the outside of Balaz and trying to maintain our position ahead of Noel. And if you've seen the last video in Jeddah, he kind of took us out on a safety car restart, so I'm hoping he doesn't do that again. But we've stayed in the same place at the end of the first lap. Quite a bit of carnage going on, as that is to be expected. If you remember, back on F1 23, we had a chaotic wet race in Belgium there as well, and it looks like already it's going to be nothing different on F1 24. But now down the inside of Balaz, going into the source.
Oh my god. What in the blue hell was that?
So for this, I will say that I shouldn't have really gone for it. We hit the brakes a bit too late, and we hit the back of the McLaren, and he's got wing damage now. But going into Eau Rouge...
what am I doing? We're getting a pen in this one.
That's probably one of the worst mistakes you'll ever see in any sort of F1 24 gameplay. What am I doing? I've completely cut Eau Rouge, and I'm on 2 warnings already. And we're only on lap 2. I got a warning on the first lap, following one of the cars cutting Eau Rouge. I think that was Balaz as well. And now I've cut it again and won 2 warnings. And you can hear me also say that we're probably going to get a penalty in this race, because I think I'm likely to repeat the same mistake. Speaking of mistakes, Zorzo goes a bit wide through No Name, and that's because he's got damage on his left end plate. So we're going to try and see if we can pass him as soon as we can, because we don't want to lose touch with the cars in front. You can also see up ahead, they've got a Red Bull in front of us. I think it's Badowski, and he's got a 3-second penalty, and he's starting on intermediate tyres. For now, the wets are the better tyre, but bear that in mind as we get into this race any further, as we try and go up the inside of Zorzo through that right-hander, and he kind of shuts the door on us, as again we're trying to pass him. It's really hard to overtake in these wet conditions, and we're seeing it here firsthand as he goes wide through Pouon, and there's the opportunity we've been waiting for. The door's open, we walk straight through it, and we are up into 13th place in this social race. And to be fair, the fact that it's been raining throughout qualifying and throughout the race has really leveled up the playing field. So I think I fancy our chances to get a little bit higher in this race. As you can see, at the end of lap 4, our teammate for this race, I can't quite read his name there, but I think Lars, I think that's it, there we go. Lars is fighting Balaz for P11 in this race already, and you can see behind us, TF10 2D and Zorzo have pitted for intermediate tyres. So the Red Bull that we saw earlier, and anyone else that pitted for Inters, might have just played an absolute blinder, as you can hear me asking Elvis about the weather conditions, and the Inters and wets should be faster. So we are entering that crossover period as we breeze past Balaz on the Kemmel Straight. The overtake button once again being cracked on this year's game as we move up to P12. So we're gradually moving up the field, but unfortunately most of the progress we've made is about to get shut down right now, as we're going to box for a set of intermediate tyres, the Green WOR tyres. And basically what that means is we're going to put on these tyres, which obviously is the right call. The wet tyres were overheating, as you saw me quickly scrolling through the MFD there. But the problem is we're going to drop track position to those who undercut us, and the cars ahead of us, they're a long way ahead now, because we're essentially a pit stop behind. As we come out of the pits, we ghost along with ET Andrea, and he gets ahead of us, and TF10 2D undercut us. He's looking to pass us as well. Andrea pushes the Ferrari straight near the grass going into Eau Rouge, and the Haas gets ahead. 2D makes contacts, we go right round the outside of him, and we're back ahead of him again. And we're now down to P14, so we lose 2 places. But look at the time we've lost. You see the minimap. If you've seen the settings video, you see that the minimap is useful, because that's how much time we've lost to the cars in front. It's ridiculous.
What the? How was he lagged like that?
I mean, while we get distracted by Andrea's car, lagging about there through the Lacombe chicane. We go wide, and that presents Tootie the opportunity to pass us as well. So we've lost 3 places now, and we've got to try and get those places back. A few corners later, you can see we're all now just ganging up on FBR Noel, who stayed out on the wet tyres. He's got a penalty, and we all stroll past him. And that was crucial to get past the Mercedes as fast as possible, because if we lose time to the cars ahead, then we'll be in big trouble. We won't be making any sort of progress for anyone in front of us later on in this race. So we're down in P14. Poor strategy call there, but it is a social race. We're all learning about strategy on this game, our setup as well. As once again, we're going to use the overtake button and repass the Ferrari of TF10 Tootie, and we stroll up into P13 again. So you can see that we're not exactly making the progress I was looking for, and it's not going to be any easier knowing that we are quite a way behind everyone else who started on intermediate tyres. And I think maybe a couple of drivers, I think 5 or 6 of them, maybe even more than that, have done that the same thing. But on to lap 8, we set the fastest lap of the race, which shows that the intermediates are definitely starting to rubber in, and we're feeling alright on these tyres as we are trying to catch up to the Haas of E.T. Andrea, someone I've raced before in several tournaments, even in WR last season, I think. So yeah, we're going to see if we can try and catch and pass him, as unfortunately,
tyre condition still looking good.
Again, I just follow his AI.
And again, we do get put off by Andrea's AI, well, just lagging a bit. And that is a 3-second time penalty on lap number 8. A lap later, we do catch up to him. There's a yellow flag up ahead, so something's happened ahead of us. And again, through Pouon, the car in front is a terrible run. And now we're right on the back of the Haas. We're going to try and move to the outside line. He moves left as well. We're locking tyres. And I was pretty annoyed about that, because if we carried on locking tyres with the contact model being so dodgy, we would have both ended up in the wall and probably out of the race, and we're not really fighting for much. As we are up to P12 as some other cars pitted behind us, I think, as Andrea continues to lag about. His internet clearly not going well for him, and we're finally going to get the chance to pass him. So through Blanchemont, getting a really good run on the back of the Haas. We move to the outside. He gives us the space this time, and we're just so much more confident on the brakes. And by the time we get out of the bus stop chicane, that's a very comprehensive move, and we're up into P11 now, and we're continuing to set somewhat okay-ish lap times as our teammate behind us sets the fastest lap of the race. So he obviously went a few laps longer than we did, and he's now behind us as we're 1 place off the top 10 as a VSC has been deployed, and it is for NVR Gabor, I think. I think it's for Gabor. I remember him saying that he was not wanting to drive the wet conditions, and he's binned it at the exit of Lacombe, and that is a safety car, and that has brought us right back into this race, and we're in P10 now. So once again, it's taken us a while to, you know, try and make up places, but now we're in the top 10. Unfortunately, it's not going to last long, and I do realise now, after the race, my decision making here during the safety car periods have not been great, and this is the first case of it here, guys. So we're going to box on lap 10. The conditions have been gradually drying up. I decided to go for a new set of intermediates because I don't think it's going to dry up that much. That's the first mistake we make. You can see around us, on the top left side of your screen, people have pitted for dry tyres, including NVR Balaz and even...
It looks like the weather's going to dry up in about 5 minutes' time. Inters seem to be the fastest tyre for now.
Danny in the other Kick Sauber. So
I'm glad I didn't lose anything for now, but I don't know why I boxed.
we get confirmation from Elvis that, yes, the dries, you know, it's going to dry up in about 5 minutes. So we've made a pit stop for no reason. And you even heard me saying that why did I even box in the first place? Because now we're going to have to box again. And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse for us here. So we're going to drop the track position. And unfortunately for us, we're going to have to double stack with our teammate. And this is really costly. You know, considering we were 10th 3 laps ago, we've dropped 7 places. Just because of poor decision making. And it really does show that yeah, it's a bit we're a bit rusty league racing wise at the moment, but that's what, you know, social races are for. You know, trying to figure out what the pace is like, trying to figure out the strategy, and most importantly, the setups. Unfortunately, we've got the key decisions wrong, and we're going to have to recover once again, and this time we're in last, so this might be a very interesting 9 laps, and the goal is just to get as high up as possible. But the pace wasn't feeling great in the dry, so it's going to be really tough to do so, as everyone's struggling to generate temperature into the dry tyres. It dries up eventually a lap later, and we're going to see some side-by-side action through a Rouge again, and unfortunately it's not going to end well for our teammate, who's in the wall just before the Camel Straight.
Safety car is out. We need to form up at reduced pace. Keep a close eye on that delta time. Make sure to keep it positive.
What did I just see?
And you can hear my reaction to the incident, because that is pretty comical. Not even a lap into the safety car restart, and my teammate's out of the race. And you can see we're staying out this time around. I want track position. That's essentially it. There's no point doing the same thing as most cars, because we're just going to be last on the same set of tyres. So we're up to P11, and we're going to actually move back up to P10 in this Belgian Grand Prix.
Oh, Oscar's going to be a big winner here. He's the only one without a penalty, I think. Or one of the very few without one.
And that's a crucial bit of information. You can hear me talking about Oscar in the McLaren on soft tyres. I can tell you now, the majority of the field have time penalties. Oscar is one of the very few without one, and you can hear me saying that he's going to be benefiting massively. So it's up to us to make up as many plays as we can, so we don't get hurt by Oscar overtaking us due to a lack of penalties. We're underway again, and we're putting pressure on Zorzo going into the first corner.
Oh. Good. Of course.
And just like that, that's game, set, and match. We've been hit in the rear again for the 3rd time, because we did it. We had it in Jeddah, we had it in a AEC social race in Austria, and it's happened here, and we're back down in last, which is phenomenal. And we do end up gaining a few places. Danny, for some reason, retires on track, so that's a free position, but we're still last. And going into the final chicane, this happens.
Oh dear.
I don't know where Noel was going, but that was pretty funny. We move up a place, we're still last, but here we see NLR Ryan, who was in the first social race in WR. We got up the inside, going into P1, but unfortunately we've lost track with the cars in front.
We move. Oh, we've lost the arse again. Oh dear.
And without DRS, you're not going to make any progress, and we do make a mistake in between the laps. So we have been left behind, and we are in P13. We're still going because I think there's one car ahead of us with 9 seconds of penalties. I couldn't quite read who it is because the HUD is quite small, as Matteo wins the race in the V-Carb. And unfortunately for us, it is going to be P13 on track, but thanks to Gatkowski's penalty, it's going to be P12 in the end. But a pretty disappointing race.
Oh well, what can you do when you get taken on the restart?
And there you go, race done. You can hear my thoughts about it, saying that, you know, there's not much you can do after getting taken out in the safety car restart, and that basically ruined any chance of us getting into the top 10. And if we didn't, you can see Suzu Oscar finished 3rd by just not having a penalty, which is absolutely insane. A lot of people struggled with track limits, with ourselves included, but that is just one of many parts of people learning about the new game in league racing. And yeah, pace in the wet didn't feel too bad, but apart from that, the dry wasn't great because I didn't really practice that much. But it is what it is. We'll go again in the next one. The game has been patched in the time I've recorded this video, so yeah, the next race will be in Belgium again, this time for AEC in the mini series, and we'll go again. You know, that's all we can do. And it is a social race, so it's not too serious. You can hear me not being too mad about those things. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this race. Subscribe for more. And as always, I'll see all of you in the next one.